All right, guys, have a seat. We're going to get started. Thanks for showing up this morning. 1 Million Cups, as most of you know, is a weekly educational program started here at the Kauffman Foundation. We're in 34 cities, and every week, 2 entrepreneurs get up in all these 34 cities, present information about their company and their products, and communities get to ask questions, hear about challenges, hear about the life of entrepreneurs. And the whole program is designed to help entrepreneurs be better at entrepreneurship. And so we really love what we do, and we get the privilege of helping organize these presenters and bring them up every single week. So just a quick show of hands, who's here for the first time? Fantastic. That's a pretty good group. I hear we have groups from Clinton, Missouri, which is great to have people from out of town, and Israel, which is even further than Clinton. Welcome. We love having guests from out of town come and visit. So if you catch one of those people that you saw wave their hands, make sure you give them a special welcome and find out why they're here, because I don't know why they're here. So, before we bring up our first guest, actually I don't have any announcements before we bring up our first guest. We're just going to bring up the first guest. So our first presenter is Chad and Matt from Onspring Technology. Welcome, Chad and Matt.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chris Pantanius. I am the founder and CEO at Onspring, and with me is Matt Pugh, our VP of Products. And we have several other folks out in the audience who are from our team and ready to answer questions at the end. So if you have some questions and we don't have time for you in the Q&A portion, just jot those down, and we'll make sure to spend some time with you out in the lobby, or maybe follow up with a demo even if there's interest. So I thought we'd get started with a question that we often get, which is, what is Onspring? So Onspring is enterprise software. We're cloud-based, and we help companies manage their operational data. And we like to think of ourselves as more than just a data repository or a file share. We are what we think of as a business operations platform. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what that is and how that works, but wanted to share with you some of the things that we saw happening in the software space a few years back when we were getting started. We saw a lot of really great innovations happening in the consumer and mobile space, and what we had started to see was that enterprise software was kind of taking a back seat. There wasn't as much flexibility, there wasn't as much performance. Things that we thought could be improved just really needed to be done. And so that's really what our solution focuses on, is letting people have enterprise software their own way, letting you get in excuse me, and choose ready-made solutions that we have created already ready to go, or even jump in, add your own content, and create the reports and dashboards that you need to help manage your business processes. So just to give you a few examples, we use our product internally for everything that we do. So you're seeing some of those things coming in on the screen right now. We track everything from our software release management process to the sales information that we manage on a daily basis. Even HR items are all inside the Onspring platform. And what that allows us to do is share and collaborate with that information across different teams, and then loop it all together in a meaningful way and create the reports and dashboards that we need to track. In a sales sense, we have contacts and opportunities relating to one another, looking at the tasks that we need to follow up on as it relates to those sales opportunities, and then being able to go in and look at an account and see everything that relates to that account. So I can go in and I can query up, say, the Kauffman Foundation, if they were a customer, and I could see all of the contacts there, all of the contracts that we have in place, even support tickets, all in a single view. And what's really great about that is it allows us to roll it up into a dashboard that is clickable and drill down capable, so that you can progressively get into more and more detail if you're someone who manages that information. So you can see as we're clicking on the bars, it's filtering. We're able to go with a single click down into the record. We can close it out, return right back to the dashboard, and everything's just 1 or 2 clicks away. Super easy to get started, and very quick and easy to manage if you're someone using that information in your daily work. Other client use cases, things that have really just expanded even beyond our imagination in terms of what our clients are using the platform for, are now coming in on the screen. Everything from legal to ticketing solutions to procurement, anything that you can think of that companies use to manage how they deliver products and services can be tracked inside the Onspring platform. And we do that, and we allow people to do it with a powerful set of features. So we're constantly innovating, we're constantly adding to this list, and the big thing for us is making it easy. So everything's a point and click and drag and drop type of design. You don't have to have any programming experience. You can just jump in as a knowledgeable business process expert, and you can create the forms and reports that you need with just a few clicks. Our process is very agile and short, and so you can make changes to your design on the fly and implement those and roll them out to your teams right away. There's no more month-long development cycles. The last thing I want to kind of focus in on is what we're like from a cultural point of view. Everything that we do as a software company is focused on performance and usability. So each time we roll out a new enhancement, we think about those two things and we say, what's that going to do to our performance? What's that going to do to the end user's experience? And one should not compromise the other. And if it does, we need to take a second look at it and make sure that we're making the right decision. The next thing is customer service, and this is huge for us. We're a service-oriented company. When you're a customer, you're like family, and we work through all the problems that they might have together. We really view it as a teaming approach, and really, as a services-oriented company, if we're not providing good customer service, I'm not sure what we're doing it for. And the last thing that we now provide is a user community, which allows our clients to come in and have a vehicle to provide feedback on how our service is, ideas for enhancements to the platform. They can even come in and vote on the ideas that other people have. And so what that does for us is not only maintain a strong relationship with our clients, but it allows us to have a 100% customer-driven roadmap. So from the initial idea to the product specification to the completed feature and finished release, all of it is driven from feedback from our clients. So I want to just kind of stop now. I've got about 20 seconds left and open it up for questions.
Thank you, guys. Go ahead and raise your hand if you have a question. We'll bring our mics around. Find you. There you go.
Very nice application. Can you speak to your APIs that you mentioned?
You bet. We have an Open Web Services API, and we're very excited about that because it's allowing us to integrate with a variety of systems. We're happy being the source of record for your data, but we can also integrate very nicely with just about any other system that has an API that we can talk to. We can bring in data in a more manual sense if people need to just do that once to get started. We have a built-in flat file import process that allows you to map, say, an Excel spreadsheet that you might be using today directly to the forms and reports that we have inside of our system. If it's something that's more ongoing and you want to have an automated way of bringing in data from different systems, and the API is the way to go. Any other questions?
I have a quick question. Over here. Yep. What were you guys doing before you were doing Onspring, and what caused you to have this idea and get started?
Sure, that's a great question. I think a lot of us worked in the enterprise software space in a variety of capacities prior to this. Myself, I have about 13 years of experience dealing with enterprise software, and what we found was that people who are friends tend to talk and share ideas, and probably like many of you, we had used different products and found them to be inefficient and hard to use. And you can only hear, I wish I had, if only this system could do X, so much before you start to see some themes and some trends in how to make things better. We started to jot those things down into notebooks and said, you know, what if we created a product that would allow us to solve some of these problems?
Got a question for you in the center.
Yeah.
Hi. Business operations seems like it's a very competitive space. How are you putting yourself through the competitors, and are you successful at it right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. It is a very full space, and especially when you think about certain aspects of operations. Certainly there are a lot of niche providers out there. So if you look at the different functional areas within a company, say finance or accounting, and then maybe sales and sales operations, HR, maybe even internal audit and assurance. There are a lot of great products out there focusing on specific areas, and we could have been that. We could have looked at becoming just a point solution to do one thing. But when we thought about doing that, and actually our initial focus was in procurement and contract management, we said, you know, no two companies manage contracts or procurement in the same way. And the way that we need to try to help customers be successful is to give them the power to go in and make the contract process their own. And as we started to do that, we said, well, you know, this is a great idea. Why not do that for other functional areas and processes within companies? Why not become a solution that, you know, you don't have to have 15 different software solutions within your company. You can just have one and have everything related to each other in a comprehensive set of reports to keep people informed.
One more question in the center.
Chris, thank you for sharing. My question is, when you sell this to a large company, what is the implementation process, and is there a training that goes along with that? Is there a large learning curve? How do you get it into the company so they can successfully use it?
That is a great question, and it's one that we get often. The first bit on training, we do have a team dedicated to professional services and training. However, we also have built into the product a complete help library. So when you click into the top right corner of your screen, there's a little help icon, and you can view help-related topics to any administrative function or any end-user function, and learn how to do something with screenshots and step-by-step cookbook-like instruction. We've also expanded that to include video-based help. So we've listened to our clients, and that's one of the things they wanted, which was, you know, a quick 3 to 5 minute video on how to do something. So it's all baked in. If you forget how to, say, write a calculation or to how to build a report, it's all right there, and you can just watch a quick 3-minute video on how to do it. But I'm going to give Matt a little credit. I think he spent a lot of time building the UI so that it's intuitive, and hopefully watching that once or twice helps you have it for good.
Okay. Chris, we got another question in the center.
Yeah.
Hi. Enterprises can be pretty sensitive about their data. How are you overcoming the resistance and to get them to put their data on your system?
Really great question, and a true statement. We have a very secure data center. It's based here in Kansas City, at 24/7 monitoring with cameras. So in terms of folks who manage security and compliance matters, you're going to find that we do follow SSAE 16 regulations on that. And so that's just part of it, though, for us, is making sure that the physical site where the data is housed is secure. We go beyond that. We allow you to enable encryption on certain fields that you may want to track. So if you have personally identifiable information, or PII as they call it, you can set it up in such a way that that data is encrypted if you're going to track it. And then that is done in such a way that even our own developers and our own database administrators can't make sense of that information. It's fully encrypted at rest and in transit across the board. So it's up to the clients to decide on what level of security is appropriate.
Chris, one more in the middle.
Hi. So help me with your revenue model and your price point. How is a sliding scale for company size, and can startups afford you?
Yeah. Excellent question, and the answer is yes. And we are a user-based. We follow a user-based pricing structure in that it's just based on the number of users that you have in the system. It's very easy to get started. Pricing's on our website. And as you get larger in your deployment, we have that price per user that scales down. So if you're a 5-person law firm, for example, you can get started at a price point that makes sense. If you're a 50,000+ employee global organization, we have pricing that makes sense for that as well. And our clients are serving in a variety of industries and at all shapes and sizes. So we didn't want to just narrow our product to one set of users. We are focusing, given that we are a user-based product, a little more on the mid-size and larger organizations, But we're a startup, and we use our product every day, and so we don't want to leave out any of the smaller companies as well. So you can get started with just one user if that's all you need.
Chris, I have a question for you. Can you give us kind of a user story of maybe somebody recently who connected with you guys and how they're using Onspring?
I'd be happy to. We have a financial institution that's also based here in town who's used us not just from a procurement perspective and helping them manage the contract lifecycle management that they follow, but also a full set of legal solutions. So they found that using the Onspring platform is great for in-house counsel in tracking things like litigation and disputes, evidence, and even tasks related to all of those things. And what's funny is as people start to see the product in place, other folks stop by and they say, hey, what's that you're using? That looks helpful. Or they see a report and they say, where did you generate that report? And it starts to spread. And that's exactly what we want, and we want to make that very easy for companies to do. So as one identified need is fulfilled and solved, it can very easily be related to other processes within companies and help them expand their deployment. And that's where the real power comes in, is not just having siloed information, but as you guys know, relating it to other things and seeing the roll-up reports and dashboards. Any other questions?
Yeah, from the Twitter feed.
Yep. So a question from the Twitter feed. They say, we love your website. Who did the user interface?
Thank you. That's great. We did a lot of it internally. We also worked with a designer here in town to kind of help us out with some of the graphics. But a lot of the animation that you're seeing, we developed that in-house. Yeah, we're super excited to hear that feedback. That's great.
Question in the center.
Great presentation. Can you walk back how it works again a little bit? Just because it seems like there's a lot to it. It can be really in-depth, and it'd be helpful to see it again.
Sure. I kind of like to think of it as a three-step process. Maybe we can pull that slide back up. The solution really begins with thinking about your needs. And so, and by that I mean, what do you want to track? So if you're someone who works in sales or marketing or finance or legal or procurement, what's the type of information that you need to track in your daily life? And probably you have spreadsheets already in place that are tracking a variety of things. You may have other systems that you're using that you wish were a little bit more efficient or easier to use. And so it's taking a look at that and thinking about the data. What does it relate to? And so in a very real sense, you then can kind of get into thinking about the fields and the layout of the forms. And if you've ever filled out anything online, it's just a matter of designing a form that captures the inputs that you want your users to provide. Once that's been done, and it's all done, again, through a point and click and drag and drop interface, no coding required, you simply add your content. You can do that by keying it in amongst your user community, or you can import it in or use an API, as we talked about. And then after that, all that data just fills into your reports and dashboards. You can make changes on the fly to the reports. You can change dashboards. You can share them with other members of your team. So it's really just thinking about what it is you want to track, loading the content, and then adding the reports. And really, that's it. So pretty easy to get started.
We have a question over here to your left.
Okay.
So it sounds like you make people have to do their own solutions or whatever. Do you provide templates, for example, for time management or some other user needs?
And we absolutely do, yes. We provide a variety of templates or apps that are pre-configured to help you get started and save time. We've taken kind of just a basic approach to most of those. So we've looked at all the different functional areas that we've worked with within our client base. And some of those that we're just kind of also thinking about maybe in a generic sense. We also, again, use our product internally for everything we do. So if you can think it, we probably have a starting point for you or a template. And if you want to use what we have as is, that's great. If you don't, it's really easy to make changes. Again, you can just click into any of the forms and fields and reports and change them with just a few clicks. Or you can just create your own. So you can go completely greenfield, blank canvas, and start designing your own apps and forms and reports. So we have everything from template to greenfield approach.
We have another question right over here.
It sounds like an awesome solution for startups. I'm wondering, how do you address companies that may have been using an enterprise system for years or for several years that may be less nimble, and so they have fears of making that conversion because of all the headaches and heartaches that go with that? How do you address that?
Yeah, that's a thing that we deal with pretty regularly, and a lot of it just is kind of the fear of change. I think you're going to find that with any product, not just ours, but any new software product that comes in. Some people have a kind of a familiarity with some of the things that they're doing, but once they see the time savings that can be achieved, the collaboration that can be achieved with reports. I mean, no longer do you have to build complicated spreadsheets and reports and refresh those manually, say every quarter, to give those to your management team. They can log in directly and look at a dashboard that's already pre-configured with live data that shows them up-to-the-minute information on what's going on. So the idea is to get information to the people who need it, the business process owners and experts, more quickly, and allow them to make better business decisions and not have to wait on data or question its validity.
Chris, you guys are listing on your website like a marketing program management, something like that. Do you have any clients currently using that? Can you talk a little bit about what type of company is using that? Is it an online company or brick and mortar?
Yeah, we do have, as was mentioned, a marketing and program management application. That's kind of typically part of a larger CRM solution that we also offer. We use it internally too. And the purpose really of tracking your marketing efforts and events is kind of looking at how you're utilizing your marketing spend. So we tie all of our sales operations data to the marketing programs that we participate in, and it helps us understand the way that we're spending our marketing dollars. So when we identify a lead, it is converted into an opportunity. That lead is tied back to a marketing event or a program, something that we participated in. Might be a webcast, might be a trade show. It could be any number of things, but we're able to then tie that sale back to the original marketing event. And if we know that going to a particular location or trade show brought us in a significant number of leads, and particularly some that convert into a closed-won sales opportunity, then we know that maybe we want to continue participating in that type of event. Conversely, if we put forth our best effort and we didn't see the amount of traffic that we wanted, then we know to reallocate our marketing budget elsewhere in the coming year. So it's about looking back at how things were spent, both time and money, and being able to make better decisions going forward.
Chris, I have a quick question about your customers, your first customer in particular. So enterprise systems take a massive amount of product development. And tell me about how you convinced, and the first question people always ask is how many other people are using your system? So how did you convince your first person to trust you guys with their business processes? And what was your first product like compared to what you have now and all the product development that you've done since you've had users on it?
Oh, those are all great questions. I'll see if I can break that down. Our first customers were in different industries, and we had one that started with us who was in an education capacity, and so a private school worked with us to manage school operations, and this was like a lot of startups, you kind of reach out to the people you know, and people who are following you have an interest, and so it was easier for us as an early stage company to kind of reach out to our personal contacts, friends, family. I'm sure you guys are doing the same things to try to get some buzz started, and maybe they know people who know people, and so word of mouth, for lack of better words, was the best and fastest way that we could come up with to get the word out. So a school came along and began to track the relationships between parents and students so they could understand who's the right person to pick up the children in carpool every day. They had maintenance requests that they wanted to keep better track of. As classrooms needed to have additional services fulfilled within them, maybe a smart board installed, something like that, they could enter in a ticket, so to speak, and then move that through a review and approval process. And that did two things. It, one, added visibility to the requests, and then it also helped the maintenance staff demonstrate and showcase how they were spending their time. I think a lot of people in their case were wondering, well, what do these people do all day? Well, here it is. It's all right in the system, and you can analyze and see how productive we've really been. Our other early on customers were in financial services, so we have banks and credit unions using the product now, and even some financial services firms who focus on investments. And they're using our product from everything from sales and CRM tracking to help them manage better client relationships, and the performance that they have associated with their sales opportunities, all the way through some of the more operational type of information, such as legal and procurement, and making sure that they're moving through efficiently in those areas as well. So we're really excited that we're not just limited to a single industry or to a single vertical or class of customer. If you think about all the people who use a spreadsheet and the flexibility that you have with a spreadsheet, you can use it to track your grocery list all the way through some pretty complex calculations for large companies. We're not unlike that. We're evolved from that, and we allow you to share and collaborate on that information and design powerful apps that really just don't require a lot of IT investment and time. It puts the power back into the business owner's hands. People who are the experts have the ability to go in and build solutions that they want and that they can manage. And so that's been our focus, and I think will continue to be so.
Cool. And one more question from the Twitter feed. This is from the group streaming in North Kansas City, so say hi to North KC. Does your system include the ability to store spreadsheets, PDFs, and other files, and are those documents searchable?
Yes. All of the above. We have a drag and drop attachment field that can be put on any form. So if you want to add Word documents, PDFs, Excel spreadsheets, whatever it might be, you can just simply drag and drop those onto a form. They'll upload and instantly be made available to you and to your team for collaboration. And so, that's a part of what we do, but we also track all the information around those attachments. So not just a file share, or there's a lot of companies out there that are focusing very well on sharing just files and putting them into folders that people can go out and reach. But we add the ability to create a form around that and add some context and metadata around that so that you can describe the information that you're tracking, report on it, slice and dice it any number of ways.
Cool. So we're running out of time, but we want to ask the classic 1 million cups question, which is, of course, what can the community do to help you?
Yeah, I think for us, we would just love it if you guys could help us get the word out. We are shifting a little into sales and marketing mode now. We've spent the last couple years working on the product primarily, and we're now in a full rush to the market, and just letting letting your friends and family know, people that maybe have struggled with spreadsheets and maybe clunky old slow systems at work. Life's too short to be spending a lot of time managing systems, and just let people know that we're there to help.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Unplug.
Okay, so we have a few announcements. As you guys know, you can always take a look at your beautiful sheet that we have printed for you to find out what's going on in Kansas City, at least that we know about. But there are a couple things that didn't make it on the sheet today, so we wanted to make sure you got the information. First, the Inventor Center of KC has a meetup on May 20th here at Kaufman at 6:30 p.m. And that's a really great place if you have a product or you're inventing something, you're working with hardware, to come and connect with people that are also kind of working with physical products in that sense. And then finally, Lean KC. Is anybody familiar with Lean Startup Machine and that kind of methodology. Okay, so that's a really great way to test and validate your startup ideas, find customers, and make sure that your business has a market before you go out and start making investments and get too far down the road. So this is a really great workshop that we suggest you kind of think about if this is a place where you're at with your business. But we need help. Before we can have Lean Startup Machine in Kansas City, we all have to go online and help unlock it. So it's really simple. We'll tweet out the website. Keep an eye on the Twitter feed, but just click the link, click unlock, and help us get this great program. We have a local meetup that happens. I know there's one happening this Friday through Sunday here at Kaufman, and you can always check out the website if you want more information about that. So, and we have one more announcement.
Hey guys, my name is Nate Olson. I guess I was the first organizer in Kansas City. Anyway, I just want to acknowledge a couple groups that are here on behalf of the Kaufman Foundation. We have a delegation from Tech Day Monterey. It's basically the Stanford of Mexico, and they're here engaging with our Ice House program. So they've come a long way to engage with entrepreneurs and learn from us. So I would give them a big Kansas City welcome. And we also... We also have a young group of students here in the middle from Israel, and they're here learning about startup communities and innovation in the United States. So give them a big welcome as well. Do you have more announcements? Oh, okay. I'm gonna go into the introduction. I haven't done one of these in a while. But I want to introduce our next presenter. When we started shaping 1 Million Cups as a program, we were like, do we just do startups, just for-profit companies that are looking to scale? And then as 1 Million Cups grew, this is, I would think, the largest meetup in town focused on entrepreneurs. And so we started including nonprofits about 6 months into the program. And so there's amazing nonprofits in this community that are having a huge impact that can use Kansas City as a test bed and can scale and impact the world. So I'm really excited to introduce our next presenter, Rob Ryman from the Giving Grove. And he's going to talk to you about community gardens and how to equip people in urban communities with the tools and resources to grow their own food. So take it away.
Thank you, Nate. Thank you. Good morning. I am delighted to be here today to tell you about, I believe, an important story that I want to share. I am the director of a new organization called the Giving Grove. We're only about a year old in operation, just 13 months into planting. And what we're trying to do, and I think we're doing a pretty good job of it so far, is inspiring and empowering communities to come together to create their own alternative food system that is very healthy by planting fruits, berries, and nuts. Really a very simple concept. Why is this important? Okay, let me share a couple of data points. This is very important to all of us. In our city alone in Kansas City, we have 250,000 people that fall in a designation of food insecure. That means they live paycheck to paycheck, not knowing exactly where food is going to come from at the end of the month. And of course, when you're living paycheck to paycheck, you're trying to stretch those dollars. And since 1979, the price of fruits and vegetables have gone up 40%, and the price of processed food has gone down by the equivalent. This problem, by the way, we're a hotbed in Kansas City of what the USDA calls food deserts, designated by the orange areas in the map. These are areas where we have very low income families and no grocery markets to buy food. This problem's exasperated because recent studies clearly indicate that young children, ages 1 to 3, need good nutrition for proper development of their physical and mental abilities. And in the state of Kansas, 1 in 5 children live in a food insecure family. And that number is worse in the state of Missouri. Now, my colleagues and I are not okay with that. My guess is many of you are surprised by that. We've come up with a very simple and a very cool idea to address this problem. All right? We are planting these little micro orchards all over our city. We're going to plant them all over our city in every neighborhood. We provide the site assessments. We provide the right plant material. We help with the installation. We've got a great curriculum to teach people in the neighborhood how to care for those trees. We provide coaching. We oftentimes provide funding for these orchards. And we also we have a partner that will provide gleaning. So in the event that we ever plant, and we have one site with 120 trees. Now that is more fruit than that one individual neighborhood can use. We don't want any of that food to go to waste. So we're partnering with an organization called After the Harvest that will come glean the excess fruit and take it to the food pantry, food kitchen, and food bank in greatest need. Now, the sites, they have to provide a couple of things. One, they have to commit to us that at minimum a portion of the food will go to those in need, because we're planting them in the neighborhood, but we're also planting them in the suburbs and communities of faith that will commit to us that the food, when it's harvested, will go to the food kitchens and the food pantries, right? We think both models are working. We have a much higher percentage of sites that we're planting right in the neighborhoods, right? So it's just their orchard. They're creating community around their orchard. They have to get the community involved. They have to have access to water, and they have to commit 2 people to come to our curriculum, learn how to care for these trees, and it can't be in one family. We want a backup capability. This is a sustainable food system, and we want to ensure that these trees will provide food for a very long time. We call them a steward and an apprentice, and in our city, this is what we've been able to accomplish in the last 13 months of planting, about 18 months in operation. These are our sites. And again, if you look at how we're actually being very targeted, right, in these areas of need, desperate need. So, what's the magnitude of the opportunity here? So, every semi-dwarf fruit tree that we plant, and I'm going to use apple tree as the model here, will produce on average 300 to 500 pounds of food on an annual basis, right? It generally has a productive life of about 25 years. So you can see if one apple tree will produce that, thousands of apple trees. Think of the healthy food. And we're exceptionally particular in terms of what types of fruit trees we'll plant, right? We want to be able to plant fruit trees where the apples will store in the refrigerator for months if they end up in a pantry with a refrigeration system. That's a lot of healthy food. So we can model our data, right? So we modeled our data and we said, okay, how many trees have we planted? Take that times the Missouri Extension Department's data for how much food will be produced on a tree variety by tree variety, and we can get an estimated yield. So in our first real year of operation, and I'm talking about April 1 of last year, which is when we started planting, through yesterday, which was our 38th site, when those trees mature on an annual basis, they will deliver 165,000 pounds of really healthy food. That's pretty amazing. We decided last summer, as a new organization, we should put together a 5-year plan. We should think big, try to shoot for the stars, if you will. And so we put a list of our 5-year plan and how many projects we would like to do every year, how many trees we would like to install. And you can see in our 5-year plan, we want 2,790 trees. That would be our goal. And if we do that, those trees, again, when they reach maturity, will be delivering 835,000 pounds of really healthy food to our neighborhoods. And that is, the industry generally uses about 1/3 of a pound per serving. So we're talking about 2.5 million servings of really healthy food. Very simple construct. We are convinced we can make a material impact on hunger in our community. If we do this right, there really is no reason every city in this country wouldn't want to do this. Questions? Yeah, so it takes about 5 gallons of water a week. And a gallon of water goes for about 1/2 cent if you're not paying for the storm water runoff. All the excess fees that the city will oftentimes include in the utility bill. So even if you include that, a penny a gallon. So do the math, and every summer is going to be different, but we would expect at least 12 weeks of watering. So we're talking about 5 gallons times 12 weeks. That's how much water per tree. So what we try to tell our sites that are concerned and don't have budgets to cover that, water is not going to be your operational issue. It's very low to maintain 1 tree. And most of our sites are about 10 to 15 trees. We have some bigger sites, and we really insist that they be at least 5 trees. But it's not a lot of water. Great question. Yeah, so...
Can you repeat the question?
How much acreage is required for a site like this? What we're finding is we have thousands of abandoned lots in this city, thousands of them. And the city is looking for what to do with them because, quite frankly, they don't want to maintain them. Those lots are very narrow, oftentimes 35 feet by 100 feet deep. We can plant a lot of trees in a little lot like that. We can plant 15 to 20 trees easily, as long as there isn't a canopy of big old trees surrounding that particular lot.
We have a question all the way in the back.
Yep.
This is just a brilliant idea. I really love it. I would love to know, how much does it cost per tree to get it started, and then how long does it have to grow before it's mature and producing fruit?
Great question. What we do is we've got some great relationships with about 6 or 7 different nurseries where we're buying our highly disease-resistant stock. We generally budget about $20 a tree. And we like it when the sites can, even if they can put a tiny portion of money, if they can come up with $10, $100, just something, so they're invested. But we will not allow a site that loves the idea. If we had a site in a neighborhood that cannot afford to do this, we will not allow them not to do it. We will make it happen. And the time to deliver. And it will take 3 years before a tree will produce, but it will take a little bit longer than that to produce in earnest. We think years 4 and 5 will start to get some earnest production. You might have heard that I included berries. One of the reasons we like to include berries is because blackberries will produce in earnest in their 2nd year. And we planted some sites last year where they actually had a little bit of production on their raspberries in the 1st year. And of course, in some of these sites, that excitement and energy is important. So, good question. Others?
Another question here in the back.
How can you partner with areas, say like a golf course, or areas where there's a lot of land, but maybe it's not being used, or like places in Johnson County? I have an island sits across from my house.
Yep. So
probably half an acre. You could probably plant 30, 40 trees, but I guarantee everyone would.
Yeah,
to get everyone in agreement to do it.
Yeah, it's a great question. Our challenge is not coming up with the land. That we've had tons of people that have extended their land, willing to give us their land. The challenge is coming up with the stewardship, right? We want this not to be an orchard that we're growing and nurturing and delivering the food. We wanted this to be a sustainable food system in neighborhoods, or a commitment of an organization that will care for the trees, learn how to take care of these trees, so we know that we'll get 25 plus really great productive years. out of these sites. So it really isn't an issue of land for us. We've had tons of offers, and at the moment we don't want to take on any land assets. We really want to work with the neighborhoods to make that happen.
Rob, we got a question here in the center.
Yes, do you find that the communities are consuming most of their production, or is there excess that's offered up to an exchange, or you mentioned a food pantry?
Yeah. So we're not really into production. This is our second year, so we planted last spring. This year's blackberries will really start to produce in earnest. But on every site, we collect data around, well, where do you expect the food to go? Tell us about your neighborhood. We get census data about the neighborhood. Many of these sites are actually in the neighborhoods of need. They're not our sites. We like to characterize them as the stewards in the neighborhood sites. We're going to look to those stewards to also help us work the distribution model. Now, we would expect in most of those distressed neighborhoods, the food will go directly into the neighborhoods. But how that happens, we expect will be different. We expect to see celebrations where everyone in the neighborhood comes together and celebrates community in the harvest. They celebrate it together and they take the produce home. We expect other sites to be more of a you pick. When you need it, you pick it, you come, you get whatever you need and take it home. We actually have just developed a team. We're putting a team together to help think through our post-harvest curriculum, how we work with these neighborhoods, how we provide them with recipes that are healthy recipes, what to do with food, how to store the food, and that's something we're just working on right now. I saw some other hands in the back.
We have a question over here to your left.
Hi, so I live in Squire Park, and our adjacent neighborhood is Center City, and they have an orchard, a neighborhood orchard. And I also work with some people who are doing an eating from the garden program. So I'm wondering if you do much facilitation among all the different people who are doing community gardens or are thinking of doing one. And if you actually, because we're lucky in Squire Park, we actually don't have many vacant lots. But that's not the case, as you mentioned, in many other neighborhoods. So do you help the collaboration happen between neighborhoods where there's one that doesn't have one but could benefit from an effort like this?
A couple of different answers. First of all, we're part of the Kansas City Community Gardens that has been around for 35 years now, delivering vegetable gardens to low-income neighborhoods, right? We've got that kind of, we've hitched our wagon, and it's been hugely helpful and successful for us. They have been coaching and delivering education around growing fruit trees for a long time. Ben Shard in the back delivers that program. He's brilliant when it comes to that. So he's the public's coach on growing fruit trees in your neighborhood. As a general rule, we don't have the capacity at this time to offer up education to the general public around growing fruit trees. We're not doing that right now. I'm not suggesting we won't change that, but Ben offers a program right now to get education around it. Secondly, where there have been a couple of situations where people have approached us and said, could you adopt us? We've already started growing fruit trees. We like your idea. That's really our intent. We really want to provide our harvest to the neighborhood. We will, under the right circumstances, adopt that. And then if we can come up with the 2 stewards and kind of check off the list that I said earlier, then we'll work with you for you to become a Giving Grove site. Yep, right there.
That was not appropriate.
How do you manage all of that?
Could you repeat the question, please?
So the question is, I'm going to say, how can you really do this naturally and organically? Yeah, great question. We get that all the time. So if you're not aware, and most people in this room, brilliant people, probably recognize that the fruit that you're growing, that you're buying in the grocery store is in fact being sprayed every 7 to 10 days, right? Lots of chemical, yuck, right? We don't want to have anything to do with that. Right, with the help of the 2 gentlemen in the back, my horticulturists that have a combined horticultural experience of about 50 years, right, really deep expertise in this. One of the fellows has been responsible for managing the largest edible landscape in America for about 5 or 6 years. We're confident that we can do this without all these insecticides and pesticides. We're taking an organic approach. That doesn't mean they don't get sprayed. It means that if we apply a spray, it'll be an organic material, and there's a lot of them available. And it has to begin with planting highly disease-resistant plant material. There's this many different types of fruit, berries, and nuts that you can grow, and we only offer that many. Right? Very narrow set that we're confident are highly disease-resistant and will grow in our area without a lot of chemical.
Got a question here on your right.
Hi, I love your idea, but I'm curious, I understand that you're a nonprofit, but at $20 a tree and with all these groves that you're doing, how are you sustainable? How are you paying for all this?
Great. So we're very fortunate. There are a couple organizations in town that also believe in what we're doing. Healthcare Foundation of Greater Kansas City has been very gracious and provided us some funding. The Unified Government in Kansas City, Kansas, and the Casino Hollywood grants, which are directed toward organizations that have an impact on health in Greater Kansas City, Kansas area. They have directed money to us. We also have a small number of individuals that really believe passionately that we will collectively materially impact hunger in the city. And they're writing some pretty big checks.
Cool, we have another question over here to your left.
You answered one of my questions. This is a great project that you're doing.
Thank you.
Do you train the people? There's maintenance no matter what you have. There's maintenance on any kind of fruit trees, any kind of bushes that need to be trimmed back on a yearly basis, that type of thing. Are you expecting anything from the communities that these are planted in, that they should be a help in this, so it's not just that they get the fruit for free, but that they're actually coming in and helping to maintain the trees, trim them, keep everything going?
Yeah. Great question. We have, one site that I particularly like, an apartment complex that is doing something similar to what I think you're kind of leading the witness here, which is, is there if you work in the garden, you get to take some produce home? Is that kind of where you're going? Yeah. So they've created a program where they have apartment bucks. It's Waterstone Apartments. They have Waterstone bucks. And if you mow the lawn, if you go prune the trees, if you go water the trees, you get Waterstone bucks. And that money, and then a lot of the produce will end up in the refrigeration system in a little storage area that they have and store that they have. And then you apply your Waterstone bucks to get that. Now that's a little, every model that we have, every site, which I'm finding kind of interesting, is slightly different. That is not, that's a one-off. I think it's a very cool model. But most of our models are not that way. If there is need in the neighborhood, they can help themselves.
Rob,
Yep.
we got a question right here in front.
Hey, Rob. So can you talk a little bit about your vision? Because you talk about inspiring people and inspiring our community to see something better and to be different. And so can you talk about some of the transformation of the people who have been involved and what they're saying about the project? And then maybe just like a little bit of your vision for what the city will look like and how the city will act 2 years from now.
Great question. So we're only a year into this, but we have some great data already. We really want to inspire communities to come together and create community around these orchards. We weren't sure whether or not we'd be able to accomplish that. But I got a bunch of great stories. This city is full of heroes, and they're not on the stage right now. They are in the neighborhoods trying to make a difference. And I have just been blown away by how many people I'm meeting in these neighborhoods. And they're tired. They're tired of the day in and day out grime, the trash being thrown in the middle of a little park area that they're trying to maintain. Wyandotte County Ends Against Crime is a great example. Trash, just a tough situation in that particular neighborhood. And they said, can you help us clean this up? If we plant fruit trees, might that make a difference? We're planting fruit trees, and we had 4 or 5 individuals kind of helping us get these trees in the ground. Bus stops at the corner, Middle school children get off, a handful of them. They look at us, what are you doing, right? The quick answer, we're planting your orchard for you. In literally like 5 minutes, with their backpacks on their back, they're digging holes, right? Truly amazing. I mean, in Quindaro Boulevard, an area that people, gosh, Rob, I'm not sure you're going to get the community support. One of my funnest projects. I mean, it came pouring out, right? It was real amazing. It was community at work. Every one of them, and there were about 10 of them, were like, I had, this is fun, this is interesting. And they started talking about, we need to get the youth group at church to come out here and clean up. This is kind of trashy. Let's clean this area up that we're planting these trees. I got a call the next week, right? You wouldn't believe how many children are out cleaning up this lot. So I have story after story after story. I could go on. I actually have a hard time talking about it. It is happening. It is amazing.
We have another question here in the back.
A couple years ago, Kansas City, Missouri, put together a land bank, and I wonder if you've connected with those people at all.
We have. We've been working with David Park and the mayor. The mayor and David are very interested in working with us. It's in a formative state right at the moment. We have loosely talked about how, again, we don't want to take on the property, so we're talking through how do we make that work, because they really want to get out of the maintenance and the ownership of the land. I think there are a lot of opportunities. We're working with the city in slightly different ways to figure out how we can take advantage of some of those lots. Our preference would be if we identify a specific lot that we think could work, we'd love to work with another nonprofit or a community of faith that would be willing to take on that piece of property, and then we'll work with that faith community or the neighborhood or the nonprofit to turn it into something really special.
Rob, we got one more question way in the back here.
Yep.
I promise I'm not a plant in the audience, but would you please tell us about the gardens that are just right here by Kaufman, since I walk by them every day, and I'd love some vegetables this summer.
Okay. Yeah, so we've been very fortunate that the Kaufman Foundation has agreed to install a Giving Grove on the property. It's right out next door. In fact, what I'd like to do is extend an offer to anyone interested in seeing what we're doing firsthand, hearing a little bit from my horticultural experts about why these trees are cool, why they really will produce, et cetera, et cetera. You'll get some great tips. Stay for 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes afterwards. We'll walk out and we'll actually show you one of these sites. Thank you for the question. It really is a pretty amazing site right next door, and we'll go walk through that.
Hey, Rob, I want to wrap you up with our famous question, what can we do as a community to support you? And I know that was going to be our next step, so it's a great segue.
So I know that in these programs you always ask that question, so I prepared a slide. All right, how can you in the audience help? So I don't want you to pull your checkbook out. In fact, I can't ask you to do that. I don't want you to do that. What I really want is some subject matter expertise around funding. And the reason I'm saying this is because at the moment, we're 2.5 people in our organization, and quite frankly, we're at capacity. We can have a fairly narrow window in April to plant these trees. And we planted in 1 week, 7 days a week, and most weeks, 6 days a week, we were planting trees, right? So the staff that we have, we're at capacity, we're tapped out. So the only way we'll be able to scale this way, by the way, my next point, I want your help, is I could use some really brilliant people to help me think about this. How can we really ratchet this up and scale in a big way? Second thing, creative partnerships. Here's an example. I'll seed this, and I'm not going to get answers today, but if you've got some ideas about this, please connect with me afterwards around this idea. Creative partnerships. All right, an example. I'm partnering with Heartland Habitat for Humanity. I'm thinking they're working with the clientele that I want to try to serve, generally. right? Wouldn't it be cool if we planted fruit trees on every new home that they construct? Talked to Tom Lally, CEO for Heartland Habitat for Humanity. He said, cool idea, we're in, right? That's the kind of partnership. Now, we're going to teach his staff on how to do the installation properly. So now I've got an extension of the Giving Grove, planting fruit trees for those that need to be served. Great partnership. I think there's a bunch of models like that. The city will be one. Help me think that through. If you've got creative ideas on partnerships for how we can scale up, because I am absolutely convinced we are going to collectively make a material impact on hunger in the city. The real question is the pace at which we do it. I can use your help in helping me think creatively through the pace at which we do this, because I'm interested in going fast. All right, program awareness. This only happens if we connect the dots, connect the neighborhoods. Many neighborhoods aren't aware of this. If every person, what do we got, 200 people here? If we could do a pyramid scheme and every person took personal responsibility for identifying 10 individuals that you're going to talk to, and maybe half of those convert to real projects, that's 1,000 sites. I did 38, I want to do 1,000. Take personal responsibility for spreading this idea. Let's light a fire together. And the last thing is, if we do it well here and we make a material impact on hunger in our city, shouldn't we do this across the country in America? Every city needs this. Now, we don't have the ability to do this right now, and I would love to tap into some brilliant people in the audience that can help me think this through. Some of you have done this. This organization has done this. We took 1 million cups from what, one city to how many cities, Nate?
34.
34 cities in what, a year?
2.
2 years, okay. I need your help, right? And anybody that can help me think through this, I don't want to do this flippantly. If we want to do it well, so we make a big impact on every city in America. And I know you asked, but you seated here, this is the Kaufman Giving Grove. Again, stay afterwards. We'd be happy to show you what a Giving Grove site really looks like. Thanks for letting me be part of your day. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so you guys, we're done for now. I think we're going to go out these double doors here around 10:15, and we'll head back to the Giving Grove. So talk amongst yourselves, hang out, and around 10:15 we'll head out that way. Thank you.